The night sky of Erebus 4 was quiet, but something broke through it, a burning fireball, streaking across the stars. It wasn't a meteor. It was a ship, small, damaged, and falling fast. On the dark surface of the planet, Mason Drake stood outside his cabin. He was tall, bearded, with old scars on his arms and memories even deeper. He saw the fireball fall behind the distant ridge. He narrowed his eyes. "That ain't no rock," he muttered. He grabbed his rifle, threw on a coat, and called his drone. The small flying machine blinked to life and hovered over his shoulder as he walked toward the crash site. In this part of Erebus 4, there were no patrols, no cities, just cold winds and hard ground. And Mason liked it that way. But peace never lasted long in the galaxy. The wreckage was still burning when he reached it. The small escape pod had torn through trees and soil, carving a long trench. Sparks flew from the broken hull. Mason raised his rifle and stepped carefully. Then he heard it, a cry. Faint, weak. He rushed forward, pulled a heavy piece of metal aside, and found two bodies inside. One was an alien woman, her skin a light silver blue, glowing softly. Her long hair was tangled, and blood dripped from a cut over her eye. She held a small girl in her arms, no older than 5. The child was shaking, eyes wide, clearly terrified. "Help. Help her," the woman whispered. Mason said nothing. He knelt and checked for life. The girl was breathing. The woman was badly injured but alive. He looked up at the stars. "Of all the trouble in the galaxy," he muttered, "it just had to land in my backyard." He picked up the child first, wrapped her in his coat, then carefully lifted the woman. Hours later in his cabin, the fireplace cracked with warm flames. The child sat wrapped in blankets, clutching a stuffed animal Mason had given her, a stitched-up fox from long ago. The woman lay on his bed, breathing steady after he cleaned her wounds and gave her a stim pack. When she finally opened her eyes again, her first word was, "Where is she?" Mason pointed toward the couch. "Safe, as promised." Tears welled in her eyes. Then slowly, painfully, she sat up. She looked around the simple room, wooden walls, old metal tools, hunting gear. "You're human?" she asked. Mason gave a small nod. "You don't look like a soldier." "I'm not anymore." Silence. Then the woman stood slowly. She walked across the room, bent her knee, and knelt before him. "I am Niari Valshan, last princess of the Elshar. My people are gone. My daughter Lyra is the only part of me that matters now." Mason didn't like the way she spoke. Too formal, too proud even in ruin. "I have nothing left," she said, looking up. "But I will give myself to you, as your servant. Your concubine. Whatever you wish, just protect her. Keep her safe." Mason frowned. "Get up." Nyari didn't move. "I am not begging for myself. I only beg for her life." I said, "Get up." Still, she stayed on her knees. He stepped forward, grabbed her arm, not roughly, and helped her to her feet. "We don't trade people here," Mason said. "Especially not for protection. It's not how humans work. Not real ones, anyway." Lips trembled. She looked at her daughter, then back at him. "You don't know what's coming," she said. "The Zaranti. They're hunting her. They will burn worlds to find her. They think she holds a key." Mason leaned back against the wall. "I've heard of the Zaranti machines. Hive minds. Wipe out anything with a soul." "Yes," Niari said. "They destroyed my world, my family, my people. We ran for weeks through dead systems. Only Erebus was far enough to try." Mason glanced at the sleeping child. "She's part human." He asked. Naira nodded. "Her father was from Earth, a diplomat. He died protecting us." Mason sighed and rubbed his eyes. This wasn't what he wanted. He'd come here to disappear, to live in silence. No politics. No war. Just trees and wind. But that little girl, she reminded him of someone. A long time ago, he had a daughter too. She had died during the Terran Exodus, when humans fled Earth after the Great Collapse. Couldn't save her. He wouldn't fail again. That night, Mason locked his compound. Down, cameras, auto turrets, ground sensors. He hadn't used them in years. but now they hummed to life. The drones took flight and scanned the skies. Niari sat quietly by the fire, watching him work. "You were a soldier?" she asked. Mason didn't look at her, more like a ghost. She tilted her head. "What does that mean?" He checked a battery pack. "Means I was good at disappearing. At killing quietly, at not being noticed until it was too late." She swallowed hard. "Then we have a chance." Mason finally turned to her. "You should rest," he said. "Your daughter needs you strong." Niari gave a weak smile. "She has nightmares, I fear. She sees things before they happen." Mason paused. "Like visions?" "Yes. She told me this world would save her, that a man with fire in his blood would fight for us." Mason didn't answer, just walked to the window and stared at. "The stars, they'll come," Niari said softly behind him. "And they won't stop." Mason nodded slowly. "Then we make sure they don't leave." In the morning, the girl Iru was awake. She sat at the kitchen table, eating eggs and toast. Her large violet eyes watched Mason with quiet curiosity. "Thank you for saving us," she said. "You're welcome," Mason replied. "Are you a knight?" He smiled for the first time. "No, just a farmer with too many guns," she giggled. Niari entered the room and froze, surprised by her daughter's laughter. "She likes you," she said. Mason shrugged. "Kids like quiet people. They don't." Shout. Niari stepped closer. "You're risking a lot for us." "I'm not doing it for you," he said simply. "I'm doing it for her." Niari said nothing, just nodded. There was a long silence. Then Mason looked at her and said, "You said they're tracking her?" How. Niari touched her necklace. "It holds a shard of Elshar tech. They can trace it across light years." Mason held out his hand. "Give it to me." She hesitated. "It's the last thing I have from my home." He didn't blink. "If it means they find her, it has to go." She slowly removed the necklace and placed it in his hand. He took it outside, placed it in a drone, and launched it toward the southern hemisphere far away from Erebus IV's homesteads. When he came back inside, Lyra ran up and hugged him around. "The leg. I knew you were real," she whispered. "The Fire Knight." Mason looked down at her, confused. She just smiled and said, "You'll make them run." Mason was fixing the fence when the alarm buzzed. Zone 6 breach. Unidentified ship entering low orbit. Trajectory dash scanning. His face went cold. He dropped the tool and sprinted to the command shed. The old screen blinked in red, small, silent. Ship had entered Erebus IV's upper atmosphere. It had no ID code, no beacon, no contact. It wasn't friendly Nur. I came running in behind him, holding Lyra in her arms. "What is it?" she asked. Mason stared at the screen. "They found you." Niari's face went pale. Mason turned and opened a hidden metal case beneath. The floor, inside, were weapons, black, compact, deadly. "Old friends." "You said you were just a farmer," Niari whispered. "I lied," he said. "I do that sometimes." Later that night, Mason stepped outside alone. Stars above were quiet, but he knew something worse was coming. The Ziranti wouldn't send a full army first. It never did. It would test the Waters Drop scouts, maybe a kill team. Quiet, fast, efficient. But he had a plan. He walked to the edge of the ridge and pulled out a rusted piece of tech. It was a Terran beacon, something he hadn't touched in 5 years. He inserted a battery, flipped the switch, and pressed one button. The screen blinked. "Black Wolf, this is Drake, calling in a debt." Then he waited. By morning, 3 men and 1 woman stood outside Mason's cabin. No ship was in sight. No engine noise. They had landed silently, hidden from sensors, just like before. They wore black armor with no markings. Their faces were hard, their eyes sharper. The leader, a tall man with a robotic eye, stepped forward and grinned. "Well, well," he said. "Didn't think you'd ever push that button again, Drake." Mason smirked. "Didn't think I'd need to." The man saluted him. "Colonel Riker Kane, reporting." "Black Wolf never forgets." Behind him were Vex, a silent woman with sniper eyes and hands like glass. Torin, a giant man with heavy weapons on his back. Juno, a tech specialist who grinned too much and talked too fast. They were more than soldiers. From Mason's past, inside the cabin, Niari watched them with careful eyes. She stood close to Lyra, unsure if these were more enemies or something else. "This is her?" Riker asked, looking at Lyra. Mason nodded. "Half human, half Soshar. The Ziranti want her." Riker knelt in front of the girl. She didn't flinch. He smiled. "You've got her eyes, but your fire, that's human." "Ash, she has visions," Niari added. "She warned me they were coming." "Then she's the key," Riker said, "and the bait." Mason looked at the others. "How long do we have?" Vex answered first. "Maybe a day, 2 at most. Their scout ship has cloaking tech, old but effective." Juno pulled out a holomap. "We can set traps along the northern path, make it look like you're running. We turn the terrain against them." Turan grinned. "I've got mines, enough to make a crater." Mason nodded. "Good. Let's remind them who they're dealing with." That night, Black Wolf worked like ghosts in the shadows. They laid traps, set sensors, built blind spots, and fallback zones. Mason moved with them, as smooth as he ever was. The wind howled across the valley, but the team worked in silence. Niari watched from the ridge. Holding Lyra, she had never seen humans like this. Not cold, not cruel, just precise, dangerous, efficient. In the Empire, war was about honor, numbers, and technology here. War was survival. These humans were ghosts, yes, but also wolves. They didn't fear the dark. They hunted in it. The next day, the Ziranti came. Not in ships, not loudly. Just shape-sleek, silver machines with long limbs and glowing eyes. They moved through trees without sound. 10 in total, scout class, fast, smart, deadly. Mason waited with Vex near the ridge. Through the scope, he watched them. "They're spreading out," Vex whispered, "looking for the girl." "They won't find her," Mason replied. "They'll find us." With a flick, he triggered the first trap. An old power cell exploded, dropping a boulder onto 2 machines. Their bodies crushed instantly. The other 8 froze. Turan launched a rocket from the valley below, smashed into another scout, sending burning metal flying. 6 left. They adapted fast. They scattered, changed paths. One climbed a tree and leaped forward, aiming for the house. Juno's turret came to life and ripped it apart, mid-dash Air 5. Another tried to circle around, but stepped on a mine. For they didn't panic. Machines never did. But they slowed. 2 reached the edge of the cabin. Mason stepped out, rifle ready. "Over here, tin cans," he muttered. They charged. He fired 3 shots. Each bullet was laced with MPU, made, brutal, and direct. Machine dropped. The other tackled him. It was fast. It pinned him to the ground. A sharp blade extended from its wrist, aiming for his heart. Suddenly, crack. Vex's sniper shot blew a hole through its head. Silence followed. Mason lay back. Breathing hard. "Still got it," he whispered. But the last machine didn't fight it. Ran fast. It sprinted into the woods, sending a silent message skyward. Location confirmed. Later, Mason stood with Riker. Looking at the dead machines, "We did well," Riker said. "But it was a scout team. They'll come back harder," Mason replied. Riker nodded. "We'll be ready." Inside the house, Lyra slept peacefully. Niari sat beside her, still holding a rifle. "You fought," Mason said, entering quietly. She looked up. "I'm not just a princess. Not anymore." Mason sat across from her. "You still want to trade yourself for safety?" he asked Tatne. Ara shook her head. "No, I want to fight for her, like you did," gave a tired smile. "She called me Fire Knight, you know," he said. "Knight." I smiled softly. "She sees more than we do." Mason looked at the sleeping child, then back at Niari. "If they come again, we burn the sky." The sun rose slowly on Erebus 4, casting long shadows over the valley. The battle from the day before had left the ground blackened. Bits of broken Zerinti machines still smoked in the grass. Vultures circled overhead, curious about metal corpses. Instead of flesh inside the cabin, silence filled the space until Lyra screamed. Niari rushed to her daughter's side, heart pounding. Lyra. The little girl sat up in bed, shaking, her small hands gripping the blanket tightly. Her eyes were open wide, but she wasn't looking at the room. She was seeing something far away. "They're coming," she whispered. "Ones in the red light. It burns." Niari wrapped her arms around her. "It's just a dream. You're safe, my love." "No," Lyra said, voice shaking. "It wasn't a dream. They're flying. Big ships. Everywhere. In the sky, it screams." Mason stood in the doorway, his face pale. He'd seen this before, soldiers waking from dreams of the future. Except Lyra was no soldier. She was just a child, a special child. Later that morning, the Black Wolf team gathered outside near the scorched hilltop. Riker, Vex, Torin, Juno, Mason, and Niari, standing proud now, not just as a refugee, but as a warrior and mother. "We're out of time," Mason said. Riker nodded. "The machine that escaped sent coordinates. We intercepted the pulse. Fast. A reply is coming." "What kind of reply?" Niari asked. Vex stepped forward. "A Hunter-class dropship, bigger than a scout, carries 12 full-body drones and a tactical AI. That's a full death squad," Mason muttered. Riker added, "They won't be searching. They'll be erasing." Torin cracked his knuckles. "Let them come. I'll greet them with a wall of fire." Juno grinned. "And I'll blind their sensors so they hit the wrong mountain." But Mason was thinking about Lyra's words. The sky screams. That wasn't just a Hunter-class ship. Something worse was coming. That evening, Mason sat on the porch, cleaning his rifle. Lyra walked outside quietly and sat next to him. "You okay, kid?" he asked. She nodded, hugging her knees. "Do you ever see things before they happen?" He thought about it. "Not like you. Sometimes I get a feeling, a bad one in my chest. It's heavy, like a storm is close." Lyra looked up at him. "Do you think people like me are scary?" "No," he said. "I think people like you change things." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "I saw you. Before we crashed, I saw you standing with fire behind you. You had no army, but the machines were afraid." Mason didn't know what to say, I think. "You're what makes the sky scream," Lyra said with a small smile. Then she got up and went back inside, leaving Mason alone with her words. In the command shed, Juno worked fast. He connected Lyra's necklace shard to a power relay and a cracked data core from the scout drones. "This thing's wild," he muttered. "What is it?" Mason asked. "Her necklace isn't just a beacon, it's a key. The Zerinti don't want her because she's royal. They want what's in her blood." Riker frowned. "Explain." Juno spun his tablet around. "She carries Elshar biotech. In her DNA, an anticode from their last great AI, the one that couldn't be copied. It was meant to guide the next age." "An heir to knowledge," Riker said, eyes narrowing. "Not just knowledge," Juno added. "They say I wasn't just smart, it could shut down other systems. It was made to disable the Zerinti hive code." Everyone fell silent. Mason spoke first. "So she's not just a child? She's a weapon." "No," Niari said sharply from the doorway. "She's a child who was made into a key." "But she's still a person? My daughter?" Everyone looked at her. She didn't flinch. Mason nodded. "We protect her, not use her." That night, Lyra had another vision. She saw herself standing in a burning field, machines all around. Her mother was crying. Mason had blood on his face. The Black Wolf team fought, but they were losing. Then Lyra screamed, not in fear, but in command, and the machines froze, dropped like puppets with cut strings. She woke up gasping. "I know what I have to do," she whispered. The next day, the sky broke. A shadow fell over Erebus 4. A massive black ship entered orbit silent, smooth and shaped like a blade. The ground trembled. Lights flickered. Every sensor Mason had went dead. EMP wave, Juno shouted. They're blinding us. The ship opened like a mouth. From it fell 12 sleek drones, each twice the size of a man. Behind them floated something worse, a Zeranti overseer, machine mind wearing a silver-white cloak of living wires. They sent a command-class AI, Vex said. That means they know. They want her alive, Riker said, loading his rifle. But they'll kill everything else. Mason turned to the others. This is where we stand. The battle began like lightning. Explosions tore across the ridges. Torrent's turrets roared to life, mowing down to drones before they even touched the ground. But the others adapted fast, dodging, splitting into groups. Juno sent out a burst code, scrambling their targeting systems. Riker moved like smoke. Leading the charge with Vex covering him, Mason stayed close to the cabin, where Niari and Lyra waited inside a shielded bunker. He watched the sky. He knew the Overseer was watching too. Let's talk, Mason whispered. He climbed to the roof and activated his old Terran comlink. The Overseer responded, You are human. Your kind is extinct in the core systems. Why do you resist? Mason smirked, Because we don't run from bullies. That child is not yours. She belongs to the future. Your death will be painless. Sorry, Mason said. She's family now. Then he fired a sniper round straight at the Overseer's eye. The bullet hit but didn't kill. The machine reeled, sparks flying. But now the others had their chance. Vex took out 2 more drones. Torrin launched a flame bomb that melted 3. Juno activated the backup grid, repowering their defenses. But still, 5 drones remained, and the Overseer floated forward, whispering in digital code, Bring me the child. Inside the bunker, Lyra stood up. Her eyes glowed faintly. Human, not alien. Something in between. Niari grabbed her. No, don't go out there. I have to, Lyra said. I saw it. This is the moment. No, you're just a child. I'm more, Lyra said softly. I'm not afraid. She opened the door. Outside. The fight had reached the cabin. Mason was bleeding from a cut on his shoulder. Turan had lost an arm. Riker was surrounded. Then Lyra stepped into the light. The machines froze. Every Zeranti turned toward her. The Overseer floated, down, extending its claws. You are the code. The last piece, merge with us. No, Lyra said. I won't be part of your Cold War. She raised her hands. Soft hum filled the air. The drones hesitated. I am Lyra Valshen, she said, her voice like a song. And I choose peace. Then, she screamed, not in fear, but in pure energy. A wave of light burst from her soft, gold, warm. It touched every Zeranti drone, and they fell. One by one, the Overseer shook violently. What is this? Freedom, Lyra whispered. The Overseer turned to Fleemason, fired a final shot. Its head exploded. Silence. The battlefield was still. The team regrouped. Wounded but alive, Niari ran and pulled Lyra into her arms. Tears streaming down her face. You did it, she whispered. No, Lyra said softly. We did. Mason limped over. You okay, kid? Lyra smiled. You're the Fire Knight, Mason chuckled, even through pain. Guess I am. As the Black Wolf team began cleaning up. Riker stood beside Mason. She shut them down, Riker said, like flipping a switch. She's more than a weapon, Mason replied. She's hope. Riker nodded.
Now what now?
Mason looked at the sky, then at Lyra and Niari. Now, we build something worth protecting. 2 weeks passed. The skies above Erebus 4 were quiet again. No ships, no machines, no death squads. Just cold wind, stars, and silence. But peace, Mason knew, was never permanent. Inside the cabin, Lyra painted the wall with colored dust and crushed. Barry's her drawings were simple. Fire, stars, people holding hands. One picture showed Mason, Niari, and herself standing together. She had drawn a heart above them. Niari watched her quietly, tears forming in her eyes. Mason stood nearby, leaning against the doorway. His bandaged shoulders still hurt, but the pain reminded him he was alive. "She's strong," he said. "She has your fire," Nayari replied softly. Mason looked at her. "And your heart." Black Wolf stayed on the planet. Riker said they would hold position until they were sure no more signals were being sent. Vex ran recon patrols every day. Juno worked on new defense grids. Turan trained Lyra to use a simple energy knife not to fight, but to survive. One night, Lyra sat with Mason under the stars. "I had another vision," she said. Mason tensed. "Bad one." She shook her head. "No, just strange. I saw a city. A big one. Not human, but warm. And I saw people waiting." "For what?" Mason asked. "For me," she said. Later, Juno ran into the cabin holding a device. "We picked up something," he said. "A signal, not Zirinti, different frequency." "Where from?" Mason asked. "Deep space, and it's not encrypted. It's broadcasting openly on old Elshar royal lines." Nayari's eyes widened. "Only someone with royal blood can do that." "What's it say?" Mason asked. Juno played the message. It was broken and weak, but clear enough. "To the daughter of Valshen, if you are alive, come. The flame still burns. The war is not over." It repeated again and again. Mason looked at Nayari. "You recognize the voice?" She shook her head slowly. "No, but the code is real. Someone from the old empire is out there." That night, the team gathered. "We need to think this through," Riker said. "This could be a trap. Or a chance." Nayari replied. "Elshar tech could help us protect her. Maybe even control her visions." "She doesn't need control," Mason said. "She needs peace." Nayari looked at him, anger in her eyes. "She'll never have peace until the war ends." "Know that," Mason sighed. "And what if this signal leads us straight into another fight? Then we fight together," Nayari said. "But hiding forever isn't living." Mason didn't answer, because deep down, he knew she was right. 3 days later, they left EREBUS-4. Juno had repaired an old stealth-class freighter. Slow, but invisible. Mason stood at the helm, piloting through asteroid fields and silent star paths. Lyra sat beside him, watching stars pass. "This ship smells like smoke," she said. Mason laughed. "That's because Torin tried to cook eggs in the engine room," Lyra giggled. "He shouldn't be near fire." "Most of us shouldn't," Mason replied. "But we do it anyway." Behind them, Nayari rested in the small crew quarters. Had changed stronger now, more confident. No longer a scared royal, but a fighter, a mother. After a week of travel, they reached the edge of the drift fields, a dangerous place in space, where navigation failed and old ships floated like ghosts. "This is where the signal's coming from," Juno said. "But there's interference. Could be natural, or something worse." "Let's find out," Riker said. They entered the field. The ship shook. Lights flickered. Suddenly they saw it. A city in space, built inside a shattered moon, hidden in the rocks. Lights still flickered in its windows. Towers rose like bones, and around it floated a broken fleet of Elshar ships, silent. Abandoned, or so it seemed. "Life signs," Vex whispered. "Very faint, but there." They landed near the main tower. Mason, Nayari, and Lyra stepped out, with Black Wolf covering them. The air inside the city was breathable. Ancient machines still kept it alive. As they entered the main hall, a hologram flickered on. It was an old woman Elshar, eyes glowing white, hair like silver fire. "Welcome, daughter of Valshen. I am Siraxa, keeper of flame." Nayari stepped forward. "You're alive. Only in this form. I was the last voice of our kind. I waited for her." She looked at Lyra, the key to everything. The final AI lives in her blood. The last defense. The true end to the Zirinti. Mason stepped forward. "She's just a child. Why her?" "Because a child sees what we do not. She has no hate in her heart. She can shape peace. Or end everything. Silence followed. Then, Saraxa said, but there is danger. One last Zeranti core lives. A hive lord. It knows of her. It is coming. Everyone turned to Lyra. She was shaking. I don't want to be a weapon, she said softly. You're not, Mason replied, kneeling. You're a light. That's why they fear you. In the days that followed, the city became their new home. Juno and Riker reactivated defense systems. Vex trained new security bots. Torin, of course, rebuilt the kitchen. And Lyra, she started learning from the old eyes. She studied their tech, their history, their failures. She spoke with Saraxa every night, learning how to control the visions. Niari watched her grow. Every day, she looked less like a scared girl and more like a leader. One night, Lyra stood on the tower roof with Mason. Do you think we can win? She asked. I think winning isn't about fighting, he said. It's about holding on to what matters. Lyra nodded. I had another vision. He waited. I saw you. Broken, bleeding, and I saw me standing alone. He swallowed hard. Then we changed that. Visions can guide, but they don't write the future. Promise you'll stay with me? She whispered. I'll stand between you and every monster in the stars, Mason said. She smiled. Then we'll be okay. But deep in the dark, something moved in the forgotten void near the edge of the galaxy. A ship larger than any before began to rise, black, silent, and burning red within. Inside it, Zeranti Hive Lord opened its eyes, and it whispered, Find her. The flame must die. The stars burned quietly above the ruined moon. In the silent city of the Elshar, Lyra stood at the top of the highest tower. Wind whipped her white cloak around her. Her small hands gripped the cold railing. Below, the city hummed with life again barely inside. Black Wolf and the others worked around the clock. Juno rebuilt shields. Vex programmed sentry bots. Torin loaded weapons. Riker organized the patrol units. And Niari watched over Lyra like a hawk. They all knew it. Now the Hive Lord was coming. The last true leader of the Zeranti machine empire. It knew Lyra existed. It feared what was inside her. And it wanted to end her. Mason stood beside her on the tower. Scared, he asked. Lyra nodded. It's good. It means you care what happens. She looked up at him. Will you leave if things get bad? Knelt. Looked her in the eyes. No. Never. 2 days later, they saw it. A black ship the size of a city appeared at the edge of the system. It moved without sound or light. Surface was smooth and endless. It didn't send warnings or signals, it just came, and behind it dozens of drones. Smaller ships, crawlers, bombers, all flying in perfect silence. Like shadows, Juno's scanner screamed with red. That's a full Zeranti war fleet. Riker cursed. And we've got 1 moon city and 6 half-broken defense towers. Mason looked at him. Then we make it count. The next 24 hours moved fast. The old city shields powered up. Juno hacked the Elshar reactors to boost the energy flow. Vex activated all sentry bots. Torin took command of the heavy cannons. Mason walked with Lyra to the core chamber. Inside, Sarax's hologram flickered. You must choose, she told Lyra. Use the code in your blood. Link with the last AI hidden inside you. It can shut down the hive. But if you fail, it will consume you. Niari stepped forward. She's just a child, Saraxa replied. She is more than that. She is the flame that decides what survives. Lyra looked at Mason. He said nothing. But his eyes held trust. She nodded. I'll do it. As the Hive fleet entered orbit, the moon shook. The Hive Lord sent a final signal to the city. Surrender the girl, or burn. Mason replied simply, Come and take her. The battle began. Black Wolf stood on the front lines. Explosions rocked the moon's surface. Drones swarmed the sky. Turrets fired from towers. Torin laughed as he mowed them down with cannons. They just keep coming. Vex shouted, blasting 3 drones midair. They're trying to break our shields. Riker barked. Hold the lines. Mason moved like a shadow, picking off enemy bots with perfect shots. But his eyes were always on the tower on Lyra. Inside the core chamber, Lyra stood in the glowing circle of Elshar light. "Are you ready?" Saraxa asked. Lyra nodded. Yes. The machine linked with her mind. Her body shook. The world around her changed. She saw everything. The machines, the ships, the stars all linked by glowing lines of code. She saw the Hive Lord. It was massive, cold, watching her. "You are a virus," it whispered. An echo. "I will erase you." "No," she said. "You are alone." "No," she said louder. "I'm not." And behind her, she saw the Mesa Nyari, Black Wolf, the people who protected her. Their strength gave her light, and she let it burn. Outside, a wave of energy shot from the city. Bright gold, hot and pure, every drone froze. For 1 second, the entire fleet hesitated. Juno shouted, "She's doing it! She's linking with the Hive." But the Hive Lord resisted. It dropped from orbit and hit the moon like a hammer. Its ship shattered mountains. Metal crawlers burst out of its hull, charging straight for the city. Riker fired rockets. Torin exploded 2 of them, but more came. Mason raced through falling debris. Shooting and dodging, he reached the tower just as a crawler smashed into the wall. The roof collapsed. Inside the core chamber, Lyra fell to her knees. Her nose bled. Her eyes glowed white. "I can't hold it," she cried. "It's too big. You must choose," Saraxa said. "Merge completely, or let go. But I'll disappear." "No," said a new voice. Mason limped into the chamber, bleeding, hurt but alive. "You won't disappear. You'll become something better." Lyra looked up at him. "I'm scared." He knelt and held her hand. "Then I'll be scared with you," she smiled, and she made the choice. She let the AI inside her fully awaken. Her body lit up with gold. Her voice echoed across the system. "I am Lyra Valshane. I am the flame, and I choose to burn." A shockwave exploded from her body. Across the battlefield, every Ziranti machine froze. One by one, they shut down. Drones fell, crawlers collapsed, ships drifted, and finally, the Hive Lord screamed. Its black ship cracked open, burning from the inside. Its core melted, then dashed silence. Total silence. The war was over. Hours passed, the battlefield. Quiet now. Bodies were buried, drones were melted. The moon still stood, but inside the tower, Mason sat alone. Holding Lyra in his arms, she wasn't breathing. Nyari ran in screaming. She dropped beside them. "No, no, please don't take her." But Saraxa's voice whispered again. "She is not gone. She is becoming." And the light returned. Lyra opened her eyes. She smiled. "I saw everything," she whispered, "and I came back." Mason hugged her tight. "NYA or I," cried. They had won together. Weeks passed. The city became a sanctuary. Other survivors came humans. Aliens, refugees. They came to the flame. They came to Lyra, now known as the living flame. Not a weapon, not a princess, but a symbol of hope. Black Wolf stayed to protect the city. Riker became commander. Vex ran defense. Torin opened a real kitchen. Juno became mayor, though nobody agreed to that. And Mason became Lyra's father. Not by blood, but by bond. One evening, Lyra stood by the window. Nair came up beside her. "You look like your father," Lyra smiled. "Which one?" They laughed, and behind them, Mason walked in. "Dinner." They nodded. The 3 of them walked hand in hand to the table. A family not by fate, but by choice.